Hello friends, welcome to another video of Zeta Axis, and today we are going to discuss about warm temperate eastern margin or China type climate. It is also called as Gulf type climate and Natal type climate. So the warm temperate eastern margin climate itself suggests that it is on the eastern margin of the continents in the temperate zone, that is in the higher latitudes above the Tropic of Cancer or Tropic of Capricorn. So here we can see the regions where we have this temperate eastern margin. It is found on eastern margin of continents just outside of tropics. So here you can see this line which indicates the Tropic of Cancer, this line which indicates the Tropic of Capricorn. So we can see all these regions, they are just outside of the tropics. They are just north or south of these lines. They have generally more rainfall than Mediterranean climate, and the rainfall is higher in summer. So here are three subtypes of warm temperate eastern margin type of climates. China type climate, where we can see that the temperature range is very high compared to Gulf type and Natal type of climate. Here we can also see that the concentration of rain in the summer is higher. Well, here we can see that it is more even compared to China type, but still there is a summer high. Well, in Natal we see that it is almost even throughout the year. There is slightly higher in summer. Remember, Natal is in southern hemisphere, so January is the summer season over here. So in summer it is slightly higher, but overall the difference is much lower. So these are the regions. Gulf type of climate is found over here. It is China type in the China region and southern Japan. Then we have Australia on the southeastern side of Australia. Remember, it is the eastern margin, so eastern margin of the continents. We have this Natal type of climate. So this is Gulf type, this is China type, and all these three regions in the southern hemisphere, they are having Natal type of climate. Now let's see the temperature characteristics of warm temperature eastern margin. Here we are going to discuss the common characteristics, and then we will see each of the China type, Gulf type and Natal type of climate one by one, and we will see their temperature and precipitation characteristics. But here are the common characteristics. So the temperature, it is warmer in summer and moist. So here we can see that there is higher rainfall in the summer season, and therefore we have warmer summer and it is moist. Cool dry winter, we can see the temperature drops in the winter and rainfall is also lesser, therefore cool dry winter. Mean monthly temperature is 5 degrees Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius. So here we can see that the average temperature ranges from 5 degrees Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius. This is for Nanjing in China. So this basically represents the China type of climate, but still it is also common for other regions. The range of temperature could be smaller, but we can see that the temperature is not below 0 degrees Celsius and the temperature in the summer does not go very high. So the summer is warmer, not very hot, and the winter is cooler. It does not go below 0 degrees Celsius. Occasional cool air from continent's interior bring temperature down. Frost can also occur. So because they are on the eastern margins, there are chances that from the continental interiors, from the interior of Asia or from interior of US like the Parari, cold airs can reach these coastal regions or the eastern margin climate type of region, and they can decrease the temperature, and due to which frost may occur. It is mostly pleasantly warm. So we can see that mostly the temperature is in the warm region around 10 to 20 degrees Celsius. Relative humidity is high midsummer, heat is oppressive and trying. So basically in the midsummer, the humidity is higher, as we can see over here. We also see the common rainfall characteristics. So it is moderate from 60 to 150 centimeter, which is adequate for agriculture in these regions. Evenly distributed rainfall. We have seen that the rainfall is evenly distributed. There is no month without rainfall. Exception lies for some of the interior regions in the China where there could be some drier months. But in general, all these three types of subclimate, they have rainfall in each of the months. And what are the sources of this rainfall? Convectional rainfall due to heating. So remember, these are just outside of the tropics. So the sunlight is very intense here. It is not like the polar regions where the sunlight is very inclined and the intensity is not that less. Therefore, convectional rainfall occurs here. Remember, convectional rainfall occurs because the land is heated, air rises up, and with rising air, the moisture rises up, which gives the rainfall. Orographic rain from mountains, they also occur. Low pressure depressions can pass through this region. There could be a region where there is a low pressure region and air from other regions will merge over there and rise up, so that can also give rainfall in this type of regions. And then there are local storms, typhoons, and hurricanes also occur because they are on the coastal region on the eastern margin. And remember, these typhoons and these hurricanes, they move from west to east, therefore they can also give rainfall. We will see these one by one in the later part of the video. So let's start specifically now China type of climate. We have already discussed this Nanjing example, whose temperature and rainfall characteristics are shown over here. So let's see in detail. So the distribution, it is most typical climate of warm temperate eastern margin. So this China type of climate, it is the best example of warm temperate eastern margin type of climate because the characteristics are very distinctly shown right between the summer and the winter month. It is mainly seen in eastern China. We can see it is in eastern China and southern Japan. So southern Japan also, some regions show this type of characteristics. What is the mechanism? We see that in summer, the sun, which was in a southern hemisphere over Tropic of Capricorn, it moves in the north over the Tropic of Cancer. Now if we focus on China, so because the sun is over here, this region will be heated. It will receive sun directly, so we will have this heated region. And because it is warm, it will develop a low pressure region in the interiors. In contrast, the sea will be cooler because it has higher specific heat. That is, it requires more heat to increase its temperature. Therefore, it will remain at higher pressure. This is relative to this low pressure. Now, because of this gradient, winds will flow from this high pressure towards this low pressure region. Now here is ocean, or Pacific Ocean, or China Sea and other oceans over here. So this wind which is flowing from the ocean towards the land, it will carry a lot of moisture. And when it reaches over the land, it will form these clouds which give rainfall. So this is how we receive rainfall in the summer season. If you see the real winds, then we can see these are the winds which are blowing. And here is our China mainland, and we can see these winds with different path, they reach over here. The overall direction, you will see that the wind is moving from this ocean towards this land, and therefore it is giving rainfall in this region. Now when we move to winter, we see that this sun will move in the southern hemisphere over a Tropic of Capricorn. The region which was heated is now having normal temperature, but as the winter progresses, we will see that there will be this cooling of this region, and because of which we will have high pressure over here. Now the seawater, which has not lost much heat, it will be at lower pressure. Remember, this is relative, this is compared to this high pressure region. Now again, there is a pressure difference. Now air will move from this high pressure region towards this low pressure region. Now there is not much moisture in this air because it is coming from inland, but still it will have sometimes some moisture. And because it is coming from cooler regions, the air is cold. So when it reaches over here, sometimes it will give snowfall. So snowfall does occur in these regions. And if we see the wind blowing in the winter month for the same region, then we can see that this blue color indicates cooler temperature of this region. And now we can see that the winds are blowing away from the land. Here we can see these winds, they are blowing in the southeastern direction. Here also we can see that the winds are blowing towards the ocean. Now let's summarize what we have discussed. In summer, intense heating of Asia's interior creates low pressure region, which we have seen. Tropical airstream drawn in as air-bearing winds. So because of this low pressure region which is created over here, tropical air from the ocean will move towards the low pressure region over the China. southeast monsoon. It is coming from the southeast direction, therefore it is southeast monsoon. Now because there is reversal of winds, therefore it is also called as temperate monsoon. Here we can clearly see there is reversal of winds in summer and winter. Heavy precipitation occurs in China and rainfall decreases as distance from coast increases. So as you move away from the coast, you will see that the rainfall decreases. It is very similar to our peninsula where the wind is coming from south western direction and the western Ghats, they receive the maximum rainfall, and as we go away from the coast the rainfall decreases. So similar thing is over here. Rainfall does not start in burst and occur heavily as India. So even though it is called tropical monsoon, but unlike Indian monsoon which comes very quickly and gives a large amount of rainfall in few days, here it does not occur. The rain starts slowly. As you can see, there is sudden progression. It is not like suddenly the bar rises, but we can see there is slow progression and then there is slow decrease. And even if you see the amount, it is the maximum amount is here at 25 centimeter. So we can see that even though the characteristics are similar, the intensity is not the same as Indian monsoon. Rain does not start in burst, so it does not start to pour a lot, it just gives normal rainfall. Summer maximum occurs in rainfall. We can see that these are the summer months and there is a maximum 50% of the rainfall occurs in these 3 months, June, July and August. Now let's summarize the characteristics in winter which we have already discussed. So in winter, the sun is in southern hemisphere over Tropic of Capricorn. Now there is intense cooling of Asia's interior. You can see high pressure region is formed over Asia's interior, and here there is low pressure. So because of this steep pressure gradient between cold interiors of Mongolia and warm Pacific Ocean, we will see air will move from this high pressure region towards this low pressure region. Bitter cold and dry winds, they are now flowing over the China type of region or this eastern China. These are called northwest monsoon because the wind is now moving from northwest. They do not cause rain but heavy snow. So because there is lesser amount of moisture in it and the temperature is very cold, they generally cause snowfall. Now here we can see the path of hurricanes and typhoons. They originate in the oceans and then they move from east towards the west. So almost all the eastern margin of the continents which are in the tropics or just outside of tropics, they will receive rainfall from hurricanes and typhoons from July to September for the northern hemisphere. Intense tropical cyclones develop in Pacific, these regions. The cyclones move westward to reach coastal regions of China in South China Sea. So these winds or these typhoons which develop, they will move in the westward direction and reach these coastal regions where we have our China type of climate. The winds move with high speed and rain is torrential. They give very high amount of rainfall in very less time. So these are the summary of China type precipitation. We have rainfall which is evenly distributed rainfall. We can see that the rainfall is distributed in all months. Summer maximum, most rainfall in 3 months. We can see that most rainfall is in 3 months. Summer, we see rainfall from southeast winds. Typhoons occur in July to September and bring torrential rain. In winter, precipitation is from in the form of snow and it is from northwest winds, the winds which move from the interior of Asia towards the ocean. Temperature is warm in summer and cool in winter. Large annual temperature range can be seen. So we can see that there is large annual temperature range, that is the difference between average temperature of the lowest mean temperature and average temperature of the month having highest average temperature. So this and this difference you can see is around 25 degrees Celsius. This will vary from location to location, but in general they have very high range of temperature. Coastal regions have milder temperature range. So if you are on the coast, this difference is slightly reduced. Now let's discuss the second subtype of west temperate eastern margin, that is the Gulf type of climate. And here we will be taking example of Miami, Florida. Now here we can see that in the summer the sun is over Tropic of Cancer, but as the winter comes it will move towards the Tropic of Capricorn. There will be cooling of the land over here, and we can see that these regions of USA have been cooled down, the temperature has reduced and a high pressure region develops over here. the sea, which is warmer, will develop a low pressure region, and therefore winds will blow from the continental interior towards the ocean, as you can see over here. Now here we can see the real winds blowing from USA towards the oceans. We can see that this is a cooler region indicated by blue color. The oceans are warmer and the wind is blowing from the interior of North America towards the ocean. So we can see this is the type of movement in the winter month. But when we come to the summer, we will see that the sun, which is on Tropic of Capricorn, it moves up. It comes back to Tropic of Cancer. Now we will see that the cold region has been removed and it is now heated up. This region has become warm. It develops a low pressure region. The ocean will have relatively high pressure. Now here what happens, that a branch of easterlies, remember these are usually trade winds, they are now deflected towards these continental interiors. And this is how we will see that winds are now blowing from the ocean towards the continent. And when they reach, they give rainfall because over the oceans they carry a lot of moisture. When they reach over here, clouds are formed and rainfall occurs. So here we can see the real videos of wind moving from the oceans towards the US in summer. So here is the easterlies. You can see these are the easterlies which are blowing, and now a part of it is getting deflected over here. So you can see that here there is not complete reversal of the winds, at least that is what is said in the GC Leong, that there is not complete reversal, but there is deflection of these easterly winds. These are the trade winds which are blowing like this, and then they are now deflected towards the interiors of these US. So this is the mechanism of Gulf type of climate. So if you see the distribution of Gulf type of climate, then it is in the Gulf Atlantic region of United States, that is on the southeastern side. You see the states over here are called Gulf type climate. There is no complete seasonal wind reversal, but slight change in wind direction. So they are saying that the wind is not completely reversed, but there is slight deflection of the trade winds because of the heating of the continental interiors. So the trade winds which are blowing like this, they will be slightly deflected from here to come back to the continental interiors. So let's see the temperature characteristics of Gulf type of climate. The difference between summer and winter is only 8 degrees Celsius. We can see that here the difference has greatly reduced. If you remember the type of plot that we had in the China type of climate, then it started right from here, it went very high up and then it came back something like this. So we could see that there is very big difference. There was very big difference in the minimum and maximum, but here we can see that the difference is not very large. So the annual range of temperature is lesser in the Gulf type of climate compared to the China type of climate. Not major difference to cause wind reversal because the temperature difference is not that high. Remember, there was it at 25 degrees Celsius. Here it is only 8 degrees Celsius. So this change in temperature is not significant or high enough to cause reversal of winds. Therefore, the winds do not change, but there is only slight deflection. Summers are warm and pleasant. We can see that it is below 30 degrees. This is the average temperature. Therefore, it is warm and pleasant, and winters are also warmer. Rarely any snowfall occurs in the Gulf type of climate. We can see that the winter average temperature is also above 20 degrees Celsius. So, it is warmer compared to higher latitudes. Now, let's see the rainfall characteristics of Gulf type of climate. The rain is evenly distributed. We can clearly see over here that there is no distinct month where there is no rainfall. So the rainfall is evenly distributed throughout the year. Each month gets rainfall. Rain is abundant, greater than 100 centimeter, which is good for cotton and corn production, which is produced in very high quantity in the Gulf type region. These regions are called cotton and corn belt, and they are the leading producers of both cotton and cotton. Rain has summer maximum. We can clearly see these are the summer months in northern hemisphere, and we have a maximum rainfall in these type of month. Here we can see it is because of the trade wind swinging landwards. Cyclones occur in late winter, which causes secondary maximum. So if we see here in January, the rain is slightly higher than December and February. So because of the cyclones which come over here, we can see that rainfall slightly increases. It gives secondary maximum. Tornado occurs in this region. Tornado is also a very unique characteristics of the Mississippi Basin. They are mainly concentrated in Mississippi Basin and they cause massive destruction. Tornadoes are winds which move at very high velocity and they can be formed over land and ocean. They are short-lived, but the wind is of very high velocity and it can be formed within land. Therefore, it causes more destruction to properties. Cyclones in late winter cause secondary maximum. Tornadoes occur in the region. Now let's see the third subtype of warm temperate eastern margin, that is the Natal type climate, which we have taken example of Sydney, Australia, but it is also found in South America and Africa. So let's see the distribution on eastern coasts. So these are also located on eastern coast because it is warm temperate eastern margin and it will be in the temperate region, that is north and south of Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. So here it is mainly in the southern hemisphere on the eastern coast just south of Tropic of Capricorn. Here we can see that there is this Tropic of Capricorn. It is just south in all these three continents. Narrowness of the continents and maritime influence is greater over here. We can see that these continents are narrower. Here also Australia, we can see that it is narrower, and here even Africa, we can see that all these three continents, they are narrow, and because of this the maritime influence increases. It keeps the temperature moderate, not enough differential heating to change wind direction. So because of this narrowness, the temperature is moderate due to the effect provided by the ocean surrounding them, and that is why there is no reversal of winds, because the difference in summer and winter temperature is not very high to cause change in wind direction. Southeast trade winds blow over here. The southeast trade winds which blow from the southeastern direction, they will flow throughout the year. So here you can see these are the Natal type of climate which we can see, and the winds we see are these trade winds which blow over here. Here we can clearly see that most of the time you will see that trade winds are blowing over most of the region. Now this is not the real wind graph which we see in the practical life. This is the idealized. So the high pressure belts, they are not this straight, they have a very curved path. So in reality trade winds will blow over all of these regions. Let's see the rainfall characteristics of Natal type of climate. It is evenly distributed rainfall and no distinct dry season. So we can see that rainfall is evenly distributed and the peak of rainfall can be around 10 centimeter per month. Constant southeast trade winds. We have seen that southeast trade winds, they blow over here and they blow from ocean towards the land. That is why they keep rain evenly distributed. These winds flow throughout the year and they flow in the same direction. That is why the rain is so evenly distributed in Natal type of climate. Annual rainfall around 100 centimeter, autumn or winter maximum can be seen. So we can see that the maximum occurs over here. Now remember, this is southern hemisphere, so this is the winter time. We can see the temperature from the temperature graph that here it is winter. Rain comes in prolonged shower, that is when rain starts, it will continue for 2 days. Rain mostly absorbed by land and good region for agriculture. So here the rainfall is not torrential, and when there is this sufficient intensity of rainfall, then water gets absorbed by the land. But if very large amount of rainfall starts to fall, then the land cannot absorb that much amount of water, creating runoff of water or causing floods. But here, because the intensity is moderate, the water is absorbed by the land, and that is why it is good for agriculture. Now let's see the temperature characteristics. Small annual temperature range. So we can see that the temperature range is very small since it is in southern hemisphere. This is the winter season and these are the summer season. Difference of only 10 to 13 degrees Celsius in average temperature of winter and summer. So it is slightly higher than the Gulf type, but it is much lesser than the China type of climate. Now the Natal type of climate is also known for local winds. The southern continents have violent local storms. So they are not as severe as the hurricanes or tornado that we saw in the China type or Gulf type, but here there are local winds. These local winds are southerly buster, which we can see over here in Australia. These are violent cold winds and along the coast of South Wales, frequent in spring and summer, and it leads to sudden fall in temperature. So these are seen in the southern side of Australia, and these are cold winds which decreases temperature suddenly. Then another important is Pampero, which is seen in Argentina and Uruguay, and it is also accompanied by thunder, lightning, rain and dust. And another one is Berg winds, which blows from South Africa towards the ocean, and it is a warm wind. So unlike these two, which are cold winds, this is a warm wind. It blows in southeastern Africa, hot and dry winds, wind blowing down from interior plateau. So winds which blow from the interior towards the ocean. Let's see each of them one by one. So starting with Berg winds, which are warm winds. This is our African continent, and if we look closely to the topography of the southern region, so we can see there are some mountains over here. Now as wind is blowing from this high pressure region towards the oceans, it will have to move from above this mountain towards the ocean where the height decreases. And it is because of this, we will see here the wind is blowing from the mountains towards the oceans and it is descending. And because of this descending, it is adiabatically heated and therefore it is warmer. Here is the summary. Warm dry winds, a type of foehn wind which we have seen in Central Europe. So it originates from interior plateau of South Africa and blow towards the coast. So here we can see that they originate from central plateaus of South Africa and then they move towards the coast. High pressure system creates a pressure gradient that drives air towards the coastal region. So we can see there is high pressure. This region will also have high pressure and here is low pressure. So because of these winds from here will move towards this coast, and while moving they will have to move down the plateau or the mountains along the coast, in which it will get adiabatically heated and therefore it is a warm wind. It is similar to the foehn wind which we see in Central Europe. Now let's see the Pampero winds of Argentina and Uruguay. Now here we can see these winds are called Pampero winds. They are part of an extratropical cyclones which are formed in this region. When these Pampero winds, they move from the polar regions, they bring cold air. So these air are very cold. They have to cross the Andes mountains over here. Remember, there is a chain of mountains over here. And when they have to cross them, they have to rise over these mountains and where they get adiabatically cooled, giving rainfall on the western margin of Andes. But when these winds, they rise up and descend in the plain region over here, then they are adiabatically heated. Even though the temperature is so cold that adiabatically heating does not change them into warm air, it still remains cold air, but now it has no moisture with it. It is a very dry, cold wind. As these winds, they reach the cold front, the warm air which is coming from the tropical regions over the oceans, it is carrying a lot of moisture. So these winds are carrying a lot of moisture. Now this cold front, as it moves, it will cause this warm air to rise up at very high velocity, creating thunderstorms all along this line. These thunderstorms are called squall lines. Now, because of these thunderstorms, we will see very high rainfall as well as hailstorms in this region. Here, we will see that cold, dry wind is there, the temperature will drop. So, if we see the summary of Pampero, it flows over pampas of Argentina, Uruguay and southern Brazil. It is observed during southern hemisphere summer months, that is October and November, or October to January. Then Pampero is the name for severe line squall. Here you can see an example. So because of this cold front which uplifts the warm air, we will see line squall. These squall lines are a series of thunderstorms in front of cold front. You have to see the video on extratropical cyclone to clearly understand this topic. Pampero even marks the passage of a cold front and brings a considerable drop in temperature because they are cold polar winds. Even though adiabatically heating occurs, but the temperature is still very cold. Therefore, they decrease the temperature. Pampero is usually accompanied by very humid conditions, severe rain, thunderstorm clouds are formed. That is why severe rain is there, hail is there, and thunderstorms occur. And it is followed by a cold, dry, gusty, southerly or southwesterly wind. So we see the pampero are coming from the southwestern direction. Therefore, as the cold front passes, we will see southerly or southwesterly winds, and it causes thunderstorms, heavy rainfall, and sometimes hail. Here are the local winds in this region. This is the pampero. There are also certain other types of winds which we are not going to discuss. What are the causes of pampero? We can summarize. Pampero is caused by low situated above Patagonia. So above the Patagonia region, there will be a low pressure created. So the winds will come from South Pacific. The cold front of its depression has to pass the southern Andes, losing much of its moisture on the western flanks of the mountain range. So as these winds, they cross the Andes, they will lose the moisture on the western side of these Andes, giving much rainfall. Relatively dry and cold air mass clashes into northerly warm and humid air situated across the Argentina plains north of Patagonia. So we have seen that the cold air which comes from the polar region, it collides with the warm air which is coming from the tropics. This is what is explained over here. The cold, dry upper level air and the warm and moist ground level air eventually trigger a line of supercell thunderstorms, and tornadoes can also occur. So because of this cold air and warm air, they are mixing and they are slightly in different level in the atmosphere. So they create this wind shear, and wind shear is the prime reason for creation of tornadoes. Now another type of local wind is called southerly buster. These winds are very similar to pampero. They are also part of extratropical cyclone. These winds are southerly buster. They come from the polar regions. They collide with the warmer air coming from the tropics. They create a lot of thunderstorm clouds along the cold front. So the characteristic is very similar. So first in this region you will see warm air, and then it will be replaced by colder air, as you can see over here. Because this extratropical cyclone, it will pass in the western direction. So if we have to summarize, the summary is very similar to what we have discussed for pampero. Southwesterly winds originating from polar air mass. The polar air mass forms this wind associated with cold front. The passing of the cold front can cause violent thunderstorms because the cold air is meeting the warm air at the cold front and uplifting the warmer air. Thus, we will see that a lot of thunderstorm clouds are formed, that is, rain and hail can occur in this region. The wind is now called southerly buster, and it is an uneven brother of Brickfielder and a type of local winds which we are not going to discuss. Now let's see the vegetation of the warm temperate eastern margin. The eastern margin of continents have higher rainfall because of the closeness to the ocean and the winds which are moving from the ocean towards the land. It may be moving throughout the year like in Natal type, or it could be moving in the summer like in the Gulf or China type. Thus we will see luxuriant vegetation, that is, there will be several species of trees and there will be large or good undergrowth. So because of this, we will have lowlands, evergreen, broad-leaved and deciduous forest. The evergreen forest can also be seen in the lowlands. In the highlands, we will see coniferous forest. The region looks green all year round, and because of well-distributed rainfall. So we can see that the rainfall is distributed throughout the year, and that is why we will have greenery across the year. Now these evergreen forests or deciduous forests which are formed in these regions, they are very good resource for timber. If you see Eastern Australia, then we have eucalyptus trees. They have scanty foliage, that is, the leaves are very less, as we can see, compared to the tropical trees. They have thick fern undergrowth. The undergrowth is higher, and they can be very tall. They could reach to 50 feet high. The timber is very hard, and we have seen that great reserves of eucalyptus trees can be seen in Australian Alps of Victoria and Blue Mountains of New South Wales. We can see that the timber of these forests is used for lumbering, and then they are used in different industries over here. Similarly, in southeastern Brazil, eastern Paraguay and northeastern Argentina, that is South America, we have Parana pine, which is a very good source of timber. Then we have Quebracho, which is also having very hard wood, and it is used in tanning leather. So it is used for the leather tanning process where animal skin is converted into usable leather form. So these tree timbers or the extracts from this tree is used in that process. Then there is a special tree called yerba mate. The leaves of this tree, they are used for making tea, a special type of tea which is called Paraguay tea. And plantations of these can be found across these regions. And this is a major export of Paraguay. Now let's see the timber resources of Natal type of climate. Here, warm Mozambique current flows on the eastern coast of Africa, which is the Natal region. So many species of palm trees thrive over here. Highlands have extensive forest of chestnut, ironwood and blackwood. Wattle trees grow in plantations. These are the wattle trees, and plantations can be found. They are also used for tanning extract. So this is also used in leather industry. It is also used in natural coal mines as pit props. So basically you need wood to support the ceiling of those tunnels. So in that the wattle trees stumps are used. So they will cut this stump and use it as a support for the ceiling so that they do not collapse while the mining is done. Timber resources in China and southern Japan, we see oak, camphor, camellia and magnolia. These are the different species. But because of higher population pressure in this region, a large part of the vegetation here has been cleared for farming. Similarly, in Gulf states of USA, lowland has deciduous forest. Trees grow close together and there is thick undergrowth and leafy branches. So these are very close to evergreen type of environment where you will see luxurious trees which is having large number of foliage and they close together. The examples are walnut, oak, hickory, maple. Sandy regions, when we go westwards in the Gulf type, there will be the sandy regions and they will have pine. Forests are cleared for agriculture over here too. Now let's see the economic activities in the warm temperate eastern margin type of climate. The most productive region of mid latitude. So all the regions in the mid latitude, these regions have the highest amount of agriculture produce. Adequate rainfall is there and there is no prolonged drought because the rainfall is evenly distributed. Sea is warmer for crops to survive. So these regions are along the coastal regions. Therefore, the temperatures are moderate even in summer and winter. So crops can be grown across the year and rainfall is also evenly distributed. So there is no prolonged dry season. Farming activity mainly in summer. High population in China and South Japan. We know that these regions have high population density, therefore large lands are required for agriculture. Hills are terraced. We can see these hills, they have been terraced and these are used for agriculture purposes. These kind of step-like formations are called terraces. Forests are also cut to make agricultural lands. Large forests have been cleared. One of the most intensively tilled part of the earth. Here you will see that large farming occurs and it is because of high population density. You will see that even very small areas are tilled and you will see that forests, hills, even higher regions of the highlands, they are also used for agriculture produce. In China, rice, tea and mulberries are the most important produce. Mulberries are used for sericulture, that is silk farming. In USA we have wheat, maize, corn. In Natal we have cane, sugar. In South America, coffee and maize are the major produce. In Australia we have dairying. So here it is used for dairying. So let's see agriculture in China. It is the major rice producing region in world along with India, and because of high population, most rice is only for domestic consumption. So even though it is a very highest producer of rice, still it requires to import rice because of high domestic requirements. The agriculture here is done by mainly manual labor and wet paddy or swamp rice cultivation is there. So you can see here the flooding of the fields are there and then rice is planted in them. So this kind of flooded fields, they are called swamp farming in some places. That is why it is called swamp rice. Many manual labor and large subsistence farming with low economic return. So because of very high population density, the per capita land is smaller and that is why subsistence farming occurs. That is, people farm for their own needs. The return is not used for selling or economic gains but for one's own annual consumption. Double or triple cropping is now done because of advancement of technology, new breeds of seeds. We have seen that 2 or 3 crops can be grown in a year. That is why annual crop production has increased. Tea is also cultivated in China, but it is also mainly for local consumption. These are distinct type of green teas which are consumed there culturally. Then there is sericulture, which is also an important part of China. Here mulberry leaves are gathered to feed silkworms. So these are the silkworms and the mulberry leaves are fed to them, and sericulture is also performed here. Then why paddy cultivation is done in such a large amount in China? So if we see, then China has warm climate. All these regions we have seen, they are closer to the oceans. Therefore, the moderating effect of the oceans, they keep the temperature in the adequate region. That is, it is not very hot in the summer and not very cold in the winter. So warm temperature, moderately wet throughout the year. We have seen that the winds which are blowing from the ocean towards the land, they will bring rainfall. Therefore, it is evenly distributed throughout the year. Extensive fertile lowlands are there. So we see that these are the lowlands over here, and they are very vast regions. The soil is also moisture retentive, which is good for rice crop. Large siltation of rivers. Here we can see that these are the mountains and rivers. They originate from these mountains and flow in these oceans. Now in these mountainous regions, rivers are known to cause siltation, that is, they will cause erosion of the mountains. And these eroded mountains, they will be brought to the plain region where these silts will be deposited. Now floods are frequent. So when floods occur, the silt which is brought by the river from the mountainous region is deposited across the plain region. Therefore, the enrichment of soil occurs. Land is used for generations till it is fertile. The irrigation water which is also used from these rivers, they will also have the silt which the rivers have from these mountains. So this silt will be deposited on the land and its fertility will be maintained. Large manure availability. So manure is available over here because of large livestock and rice straws assets. So because rice farming is done so much, we will have abundant source of rice straws which can be used for manure, and the excreta of large livestock can also be used as manure. Human manure can also be used. Now let's see agriculture in US Gulf states, that is Gulf type of climate. So even though same climate agriculture in US Gulf states, but it differs from China. So even though the climate is very similar, the practice of agriculture is very different. Here there is low population density and low human labor is available. The human labor is very costly over here. Therefore, we see high mechanization in these regions. And there is a desire to export. Therefore, the crops which are grown are as per the global demands. Americans are also mainly bread eaters. So unlike the Chinese, which are rice eaters, the Americans are bread eaters. Therefore, they will mainly focus on wheat production. Rice is insignificant to US economy, and important cash crops are corn, cotton and tobacco. So apart from wheat, we have corn, cotton and tobacco, which are also important crops for Gulf type of climate in US. So corn is a chief food crop raised over here. Because the climate is suitable, we have humid air, sunny summer and heavy shower. We can see that these regions which are marked in this green color, their corn is grown in very high proportion. Grown from Gulf Coast to Midwest south of Great Lakes. So here we have Great Lakes and it is grown till here. So right from the coast to the lakes. So we can see all this region here corn is grown. However, more than 50% of global corn production occurs in US, but it is not exported. Only 3% of the corn produced over here is exported. The reason is that this corn is used for fattening of animals. And then these animals, they are sold to meat plants for production of meat. So corn is basically used for meat production. Nebraska, Iowa, Indiana and Ohio, these are the major corn producing states of US. Very little corn is consumed by humans. So humans do not consume corn over here. It is mainly for animal fodder and generally for fattening of animals used in meat industry. The regions here has very high yield of corn and it is twice that of wheat. You can see that the yield per hectare is also twice that of wheat. So it is also very profitable to grow corn in these regions. Cotton is another important cash crop in southern states of US. So So in the southern states of US, as you can see over here, cotton is mainly produced and it is important for trade and economy. Earlier in the 16th or 17th, even in 18th century, slave trade was done for working laborers on these fields. Now because there is very high heat in these regions, the weather was not considered suitable for white laborers. Therefore, they brought people from Africa in the form of slave trade for working on these cotton fields. The cotton is grown in Mississippi floodplains, which is this region, clear Atlantic coast of Georgia and South California, basically in these regions, and then black prairies of Texas. This is the Texas, and red prairies of Oklahoma. We can see these are all mainly the southern states of USA where this cotton is grown. Now, why is cotton grown so much in Gulf type of climate? It is because of the long hot growing season available over here. Cotton requires very long, warmer atmosphere for growth. It requires at least 200 frost-free days. And that is why here you can see these are the southern regions where the cotton is produced. If you go higher in the northern region, you will see that there are less than 200 frost-free days, which is harmful to the crop. Therefore, crop is not grown in the northern side. There is a line above which you will not see that cotton is grown because of the frost-free days are less than 200. And in the south, right on the coast, you will see that the rainfall is too heavy for cotton cultivation. The heavier rainfall, it will harm the cotton produce. Therefore, in the region just adjacent to the coast, you will not see any cotton farming. So heavy rainfall unsuitable for cotton, sugarcane and citrus fruits cultivated. So here you will see sugarcane and citrus fruits are cultivated. Cotton needs around 100 centimeter of annual rainfall, and best cotton when light showers is there in between sunny days. So as we have seen, it does not require heavier rainfall like the rice, but it requires a small rainfall, then bright sunny days, and again some rainfall. So it requires rainfall in patches. Irrigation can also give good cotton. Now best cotton is in maritime states. So as you are closer to the ocean, you will see that the cotton produce increases because the sea breeze and ocean warming effect, they have good effect on the produce of this cotton. Sea island cotton grown in islands of the coast, Georgia and South Carolina. So there are certain islands which are surrounded by this ocean, and because of this, the temperature is appropriate for cotton. So here you will see best variety of cotton. So it is along the coast of Georgia and South Carolina where we see sea island cotton production, and these are the long stapled. You can see these are the long stapled cotton. They have fibers length very long. These are the medium staple cotton whose fiber is smaller, and these are the short staple which have the smallest type of fiber. So cotton is long stapled of this type. In these islands where this cotton is grown on the Georgia and South Carolina coast, fibers are 1 to 5 or 2 to 3 inch in length, and it is the best quality of cotton in the world. Inland cotton staples are shorter. So as you go inland away from the coast, you will see the length will decrease. Bollworm pest, this pest is the most harmful for cotton. They will destroy the cotton produce, and the only remedy is aerial spraying of insecticides or burning of the infected crops. And it is because of this infection of these bollworm pests, we will see that the cotton produce has moved towards the western side, because drier and arid region stops growth of these pests. Therefore, we have seen that the cultivation of cotton has moved slightly towards the drier and more warmer regions. Now, cotton is also an important crop of Gulf type of climate. It is a native crop of America, though it is grown across the world. Virginia tobacco, which is grown near Virginia, is the best quality of tobacco around the world and is the premium material used for cigarettes. The major regions which produce this include Virginia, Maryland, Georgia, North and South Carolina, Kentucky and Tennessee. So we can see these are the regions where this tobacco is produced. Almost 50% of the global tobacco is produced in USA. Gulf type climate suits tobacco because of humid and warm atmosphere and well drained soil, which is seen over here. So this is the cotton plantation which we can see. Now let's see agriculture in Natal type of climate. So this is the Natal region. It is basically a province of South Africa country. Natal type region supports various types of crops because of the warm, moist summer and frost-free winter. Here, frost does not occur, rainfall is even throughout the year, and the temperature range is also very smaller and on the warmer side. Therefore, we see that different types of crops can grow here. Sugarcane is the dominant crop. Then cotton and tobacco is also important. Maize is also grown. There are this merely which is type for human consumption and silage for animal fodder. So these are the two types of maize which is consumed over here. One is for human consumption, another is for animal fodder. Maize yield is lower compared to US. So here the maize which is produced has lower yield compared to US because of the mechanization and the advanced fertilizers and variety which is used in US. In South America, we will see regions where there is lesser rainfall. Grasslands exist. This type of grasslands are there, and it is continuation of pampas in Argentina. So this is basically a type of steppe grasslands where you see that there are grasses and trees are almost absent. It is used for grazing of the animals. So cattle and sheep kept for meat, wool and hides. Because the rainfall is less, agriculture is generally not practiced, and you will see these grasslands are mainly used for animal rearing. Pastures provide food for cattle and sheep. Mild winters are there. Here also in Natal type we see that the winter is not very cold but it is warmer. Therefore, animals can be kept in open. You do not need to make large shelters for the animals. Animal products form major export item of this region. And now the regions where rainfall is greater than 100 centimeter, we will see forests are there which replaces grasslands. Yerba mata, which is Paraguay tea, is a major crop in this region. Lumbering of parana pine, because there is forest, there are trees, parana pine can be found in this region. So lumbering is done for timber extraction which can be used in other wood industries. Cattle and sheep rearing is also done in the regions having a little higher rainfall. Maize and sugarcane are grown over here, and we know that sugarcane is one of the important crops of Natal type of climate. In the eastern Australia, we will see trade winds bring heavy rainfall to the coastal regions. Therefore, we have thick wooded forests here. Now, these forests were basically cleared by the colonizers for animal rearing. Chief source of Australia's milk, butter and cheese. So this animal rearing is still practiced in a very advanced way, in a very mechanized way, and they are chief source of milk, butter, cheese. It is also exported to other countries. In the northern part, sugarcane, maize and cotton is grown. So you can see that sugarcane and maize are the consistent crops grown in the Natal type of climate. With this, we will conclude our video on the China type or Gulf type and Natal type of climate. I hope you like this video. If you have liked the video, then do subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. If you like what you are doing, then you can use the Paytm ID to support us. Thanks for watching the video.